the taste in music. You know, newer bands were coming up, like things were changing. Ted Williams, the Casa Loma. So Whiteman cut his staff, and he let a lot of guys go, and Bill was one of the guys that let go. But Bill had remained friendly with Henry Bussey, who worked with Whiteman for many, many years. So he was writing arrangements for Henry Bussey. He also had a wonderful relationship with Nat Shilkret, who did a lot of recordings for Victor and did a lot of radio broadcasts. And Bill's reputation was pretty good, starting with the Goldcat band and the Whiteman band. So a lot of band leaders would ask for Chalice arrangements, and see, he had enough work. Fletcher Henderson even employed Bill to do Stardust, and he did some waltzes for them. So he kept busy, and then he got involved with a little radio orchestra which got reissued on Circle recordings of Bill Chalice's music and his arrangements. So, and as the 30s moved on, he did some work for Glenn Miller. I mean, telling the story that he was one part of the arrangement. He wrote out a trumpet section there, and he said to the younger trumpet players in his late 30s, "Hey, kind of phrase this like Bix, you know." And said Glenn Miller pulled him on the side, and he said, "Hey, Bill, these guys don't remember Bix, they're too young, you know." And he had another funny story about working for the Casa Loma band. He did a lot of arrangements. Of course, he tried to get Bix in the Casa Loma band. Didn't work out. But they were doing a recording session, and Bill had orchestrated some of Hoagie's music. And Hoagie was a fine arranger too. He did some amazing writings and stuff. And they played down the arrangement, and Bill was pretty happy with it. And Hoagie said, no, saxophones do this, and you know, trumpets, you're doing this all wrong. And it was on for like 10 minutes, and Bill was just standing there, and then he says, "All right, I'll be right back." And he thought Hoagie went out to the bathroom, and Chalice, you know, said to the guys, "Hey, come on, you know, you guys sounded fine. Don't listen to him, you know." And he looks over, and there's Hoagie right there. He heard everything that Bill just said. He said, "You know, Hoagie never spoke to me after that." He was really incensed that I put him down. It was one of those unfortunate things. So I'm always looking behind me to see.
What about like in the 50s?
Yeah.
I mean, what was he doing in the 60s?
Well, not too much. He got involved with Eddie Fisher, believe it or not, the singer. One of the singers that got me into this old music. I hated that stuff. But Eddie Fisher was immensely popular. If you remember on the radio and the TV shows, good-looking guy, but he married Elizabeth Taylor. But Eddie Fisher could not count to 4. He didn't know when to come in. So Bill would go on, he'd write the arrangements, and he would be on the TV set, and they have this like woodland scene or something like that in the forest, and there would be Bill behind a tree. They said this paper mache tree, and he had his zing, Eddie Sling, and said, "Hey, you're in. He says, if you looked at the kinescope, you see this little finger coming and giving him a doink to come in. So he was doing that stuff. I talked to Mitch Miller one time. We were playing at the Carlisle. He says, "How did you know about this music?" I said, "Well, I studied with Bill Chalice." And he said, "Oh, Bill, he was great, but he took too much time." That's what he said. He took too much time to write his arrangements. And that was true. Bill was a real consummate perfectionist, and he said he would stay up the whole night for just the last few measures of an arrangement. He says, "Because I wanted people to remember me for the work I put in this, and I put a lot of work and love into this." And he says, "Please be that way, whatever you do." And I try. And I guess a lot of musicians and arrangers that came later on, they would just toss things off, like, who cares, you know, it's the end. But Bill wasn't like that. He taught me a lot of respect for what you're doing.
Getting back to Goldcat and that period, now, you know, it's pretty well known that, I guess Eddie King was, you know, the A&R guy for Victor, was calling the shots through a lot of those sessions, and he made them record things that they, you know, they would have rather have not, and they, you know, there's a lot of regret that they didn't do the, you know, their hotter numbers, you know, with only a few exceptions, and so Chalice and others had to, you know, turn the Sassier and still purse a lot of time. But did Chalice ever talk about what they would have wanted to record if they had had, you know, their own way?
Oh yeah. Well, getting back to Eddie King, this is my theory about that. I think this was an early example of payola. Everybody knows what payola means. You know, some music publisher comes up to someone that's in charge, like an Eddie King, who would decide to say, here, you know, here's $100. You know, how about recording this tune? So Eddie King would then in turn tell someone like Goldkit, you got to record this because this will be great. And of course, the publisher's happy that he gets his tune recorded and people buy it and they make money and they sell sheet music. But Chalice had a wonderful arrangement of the Blue Room, that the Rodgers and Hart tune that was beautiful, that we got a chance to re-record with the Goldkit project. Also, the Stampede was another hot number that was recorded, but for some unknown reason rejected. And believe me, when I worked at the BMG archives, the Victor files, I looked for all these things that were legendary masters that were supposed to be there. They were not there. They were gone. You know, so people said, you know, you got to look again. I said, no, I've been through the files. I pulled the things out. They're not there. So I wouldn't say that they don't exist, because a lot of things have showed up over the years. They made a test pressing. They would give it to members of the band or give it to the band leader, and we might find it. We're still finding stuff today. It's amazing.
I mean, I've heard it said that the reason that they didn't put out the Goldkit version of Stampede was because they had a current one already by the Savoy Bearcats.
Yes.
On Victor.
Yes.
Which is also apparently the reason that the Paul Whiteman version of Sand took 10 years to come out, the one with Bix, because it was still in the catalog, the original one that he did in the early 20s.
The 20s, the acoustic version.
Yeah, right. So they didn't want it to compete with their own things on their own label.
Well, just to do something like that with a competition on the own label, and the whole idea of payola, I'll explain this. Victor did have a record of the tune Sugar, the Maceo Pinkert tune Sugar, which everybody knows and plays, by the Benny Moten Band. And the folks at W.C. Handy, they were the publishers of Sugar, they approached Bill Chalice and they said, we'd love you to have the Whiteman Band record Sugar, and if you do, we'll give you some money. I forget what the fee was. It was something like $200. And Chalice went to Whiteman and said, look, these people want to give me some money to make an arrangement for you to, and Whiteman said, let's do it. And Bill said, Paul Whiteman was always interested in the guys, and if they could make some money, he said, sure, let's make some money, let's go, let's do it. He was really for the guys. He was really a wonderful band leader in that respect. So Bill writes an arrangement of Sugar, and Victor did record it. So for a while, I guess there were two versions of Sugar, which was very rare in those days, because in those days you had maybe a vocal version of a tune, you might have a piano version of the tune, and then a band version. You never have two band versions. But more interesting about this story was they wanted to see Bill score, the music publisher, and they took the score. And Bill kept on pestering, I want that score back, I want that score back. And it took him forever. And you know, Bill had studied to be a lawyer at one point. He didn't go with that. And he says, I was this far from suing W.C. Handy to get this score back. I had no idea why they kept the score so long. We found out later. They took his score and they condensed it. They made it into a stock arrangement without Bill telling Bill about this.
You'd already gotten paid.
Yeah, and this thing came out. Bill had no idea they did this. They didn't tell him. And if you ever listen to the Fred Elizalde recording, they used the same exact arrangement. And I played it for Bill. He says, how did they get that? And at that time, I was collecting stock arrangements, and I showed up with this. He says, I've never seen